Hello, everyone. It is me, Dalton Burdett, with the amazing Nicholas Ericchio. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, buddy?
Great, and welcome back to another episode of the Movie Nights Roundtable. This is our live show that we do twice a week, both in video and audio form. And if you're listening on the audio, you're listening the next day. Come the day before on YouTube, watch us live. It's a lot more fun that way. You can interact in the chat, and we can discuss things together if you like. It's always fun to do. And we have a fun show for you guys today. First off, we have something that we've debated doing for a long time, especially with Daredevil Born Again currently airing, and that is ranking the Marvel Netflix shows, but not just ranking them. We're ranking them by season in a tier list with some custom titles that I've made today, and so that's gonna be a lot of fun. And also, before we get into that, though, as you guys know, normally on the show we discuss a lot of breaking news, movie news, and entertainment news, things of that nature. And of course, at the end, we have the box office, so be ready for that. But mere hours ago, before we went live, right as I was making the stream, huge news has dropped. News that we must discuss immediately. As you guys know, for those who've been following for, a while, DC Studios under James Gunn and Peter Safran have been making a Sergeant Rock film, directed by Luca Guadagnino of Challengers, Queer, Call Me By Your Name. And originally, Daniel Craig was kind of circling to star, but then he dropped out. He's now moving on to possibly star in Narnia. Who knows? He's working that out. But the question then remained, who's going to play Sergeant Rock? Who is it going to be? Well, according to Deadline, just hours ago, someone is circling final negotiations to play that role. And the person may surprise you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Colin Farrell. And you might be thinking, well, why is that surprising, Dalton? Because he's already the Penguin on the Matt Reeves side of the DC universe, which is technically Elseworlds. It's not connected to the James Gunn DCU, but there have been tons of rumors circulating that it was going to be in the DCU eventually. It was going to get folded in. This may act as evidence that that truly is not part of the plan. I'm just going to briefly read from the Deadline article here. It's basically all we know is that it's happening. After winning practically every single award out there for his turn in the Penguin, Colin Farrell is looking to get back in business with DC, and that's to star in the title role of Sergeant Rock. Deadline goes on to confirm what I just said. Note this is a different part of the DC-verse, with the Penguin attached to Matt Reeves' The Batman sphere, where Sergeant Rock is part of DC bosses James Gunn and Peter Safran to oversee. The two worlds shall never overlap, which is interesting wording for the article, but I don't know if they reached out to comment for that specific wording, if you know what I mean. Scheduling for the film, which Farrell wants to do, we hear, has to be balanced with his busy fall that includes the second season of Apple TV Sugar and Edward Berger's new movie, The Ballad of a Small Player. Farrell takes over for Daniel Craig, who was originally tried to re-team with Guadagnino after they made Queer, which what we were talking about. It then just goes on to discuss Sergeant Rock, which we've discussed ad nauseum on the show. Nick, this thoroughly surprises me. I did not expect this to happen, but I also find it interesting that basically it's kind of both Colin Farrell double dipping a little bit, but if the script is good and he wants to do it and they're going to pay him, fucking go for it. Why not? Who's to stop you? And on James Gunn's side, it's like, well, if we're not going to fold them into the DCU, I can still use them as pieces as part of my DCU and use them for different things. We already know that's true of the DCEU, getting Jason Momoa to play Lobo. Now we're getting Colin Farrell to play Sergeant Rock. So far, he hasn't officially signed on, but usually by the time they're in the trades, it's pretty close to a done deal. I find this fascinating, and I want to get your thoughts. Does this shock you that Colin Farrell is kind of circling Sergeant Rock, or, is this a move that you could see other actors in the Reevesverse or the old DCEU making?
I mean, no, it doesn't shock me, quite frankly. I didn't think of it, but I wouldn't say that my reaction was shocked right out of the gate. I think it makes sense, right? Because if you look at James Gunn and Peter Safran and what they have with Sergeant Rock as a concept, right? This is a set movie with a set script and a set director, and they're really just looking to cast it out, right? So this thing is all pretty much ready to go. So it makes sense that if you want to fast track it, why wouldn't you keep it in house with an actor who you already have, who's a massive talent, who has already won every award in this award season that's been occurring for his role in the Penguin, and it could be just a you know one for them, one for me type thing. Maybe they are dangling a Penguin season two,
Mm,
sort of above his head. The inner workings of Hollywood. how that all works, but I think it's a great casting if it's true. I think it's a lot more in line age-wise that with Daniel Craig than, let's say, the Jeremy Allen White, as we had sort of talked before, was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you have this script that's ready to go and complete, and then you cast an actor 30 years younger than the person who was set to lead?
Right, right.
So I think having I would assume Colin Farrell's probably within 10 years of Daniel Craig. So, it doesn't shock me. He's a phenomenal actor, phenomenal talent. And if you want to keep that talent in house, why not work on a few different projects? And, it's not a situation, too. Colin Farrell's caked in makeup as the Penguin. It's not like this weird doppelganger type shenanigans that are going on. I had to actively keep reminding myself as I was watching the Penguin, like that was Colin Farrell in makeup.
Yeah, that's true. And as an actor, I'm sure it's appealing to just do a role for this universe, for this world, I should say, this multiverse that's where you're not covered in makeup and you kind of get to do a war movie with an acclaimed director. I see the appeal. And from what we understand, but the budget of this movie is relatively lower than a lot of DC or, blockbuster films. So as an actor, it almost feels like you're diving into something more medium budget, which gives you some more creative freedom in a sense. So, again, I see the appeal on both ways. Like, he's a phenomenal talent. This seems like an interesting project for him. Why not do it? Why not do it at all? And you brought up Jeremy Allen White. We reported that, and I almost completely forgot that he was going to be looked at anyway. But what you're saying makes total sense, and you brought that up when we talked about it before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, guys, I was just fascinated by this, and we're going to be following the story as it develops. But what do you think? Do you think Colin Farrell is a good choice to play Sergeant Rock, or do you think that this will fall through the cracks? What do you think's going on? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our main topic thing that we were going to do today, and that is the tier list of the seasons of the Netflix Marvel shows. Now, before we get into it, the Netflix Marvel shows had a number of things. They had Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, and The Punisher. Each got a number of seasons. Daredevil and Jessica Jones got 3. Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Punisher got 2, and Defenders just had 1 miniseries season. We're going to rank them all. We're going to rank them all as they came out in release order. We're each going to do our own. But first, let's take a look at the tier list that we have set up. So, might be a little bit hard to see here, but here's how I have them set up. I have the God tier, which obviously means the best or number 1. I then have Fuck Yeah in second place because, not everything can be perfect, but sometimes you watch it and you go, you know what, fuck yeah. Then I have Good in the middle, meaning like it wasn't great, but you still enjoyed it. You thought it was good. I have Meh, which means, it wasn't horrible, but you're kind of disappointed, kind of let down. And I just have Bad at the bottom, which is green for no reason. And I thought about putting in other tiers. I debated with myself for a long time, but I thought it'd be more fun to do it this way. So, Nicholas, before we dive in, I'm going to say off the top, and I'll give you some room to do this as well, buddy.
Yeah.
I've recently watched rewatched all of the seasons of Punisher, both seasons of Punisher, all the seasons of Daredevil and Defenders. It's been a long time since I've watched Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, but when they came out, I watched them several times. So I'm still relatively have good memories of those things. So while if we do this in the future, after I've fully rewatched everything, there might be slight changes, I think for the most part, I think my ranking is pretty solid. But I did want to give you the floor to establish, kind of where you're at with these as well.
Yeah, I rewatched all of Daredevil. To catch up for Born Again. Obviously, if you haven't checked out our review, please check that out. We got access to the whole season as well as every show every Tuesday we've been doing a live show after to talk about the episodes as they air. So tune in for that as well if you're interested. All the other ones I have watched a few times over, but it has been a minute. So I may ask you for like a quick recap refresher, but on the whole, I think I have the general remembrance of my feelings toward it.
Of course. And guys, with that down, we're going to go ahead and get started on this, and I'm sure this is going to cause some fucking fights. But we're going to go in release order and just kind of put them in, and then at the end we'll rank them within the tiers. We're each going to do it individually and see how much we agree and disagree here. I will go first, Nicholas. The first release of the Netflix Marvel shows was Daredevil season 1. And I'm going to put that bitch right into the God tier. Daredevil season 1 is amazing. And upon the rewatch, still amazing. And of all of the shows, it is the most beautiful looking. I think this has the best cinematography of all the Marvel Netflix shows, and I would say of most Marvel shows. Like, it looks gorgeous. I love how it looks. The writing is incredible. The first 2 scripts by Drew Goddard are some of my favorite. Like, I think of episode 1 and 2 as almost like an extended 2-hour movie, and it's like the most perfect Daredevil origin movie ever. I love it. I love the whole season, the way it builds up Fisk. Everything about the season 1. I love it. It is God tier to me. Nick, I'm going to switch it over to you. Let me pull up your chart here. Where is Daredevil season 1 going from God, fuck yeah, good, meh, or bad?
I am going to put it under fuck yeah.
Alrighty. Talk to me.
And I'll tell you why. I agree with everything that you did said, but upon rewatch, I just it was hard to look at it from an unbiased perspective on rewatch because I just want to get to the meat of Daredevil, right? I want the suit, I want more Fisk drama and everything, and I think it does a great job of establishing all of that, But to me, it sort of feels like Lord of the Rings, right? It's like the first one is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
On rewatch, though, you kind of want to just get to 2 and 3, right? And I'm not saying that in relation to the Daredevil seasons, because I do have thoughts on the rest of those seasons, But I
Mm-hmm.
found myself on rewatch recently, just like, come on, give it. Like I want the meat, And I think it's great for a season, though. Absolutely.
No, listen, as do I, and I hope that people start a whole thing from you putting it in the second highest tier of saying breaking Nick hates Daredevil. Uh, I hope that can begin, but of course I'm kidding. We all know how the internet is, though. I got some ads popping up that I'm trying to close out here. There we go. Now, next up in release order for these. This may surprise you where I put this, Nicholas. Next up is Jessica Jones Season 1. Jessica Jones Season 1 is arguably one of the best of all time. As a matter of fact, it's so good that I am putting it in the God tier. This show, guys, and I know people might give me shit for this, Jessica Jones Season 1 is so goddamn good. Like, it's unbelievably good. And when you rewatch it, because I've rewatched the first season of this show multiple times, the storytelling here is immaculate. David Tennant as Kilgrave, if we got more of him, right up there with Fisk as like the best Marvel villain, with Thanos, with all of them. He is so terrifying in his performance and just the written character in general. Like, it's so incredibly well done, everything he does. And the fact that he was able to do this and do it in a way that was so just goddamn scary. And the way that the story played out with Jessica Jones and how, the trauma she was going through, the life she's living. She's a very don't give a fuck kind of person, living her life as the private investigator, which was really fun to see. And also on top of that, just seeing all of the bullshit she had to go through and the whole double entendre meaning of David Tennant with his powers telling people, specifically women, like to smile. It was so unsettling, so well done, and the overall mystery was very compelling. I love Jessica Jones Season 1. It is also God tier to me. Nicholas, let's dive into it for you, shall we?
I'm gonna keep it easy for you. The exact same placement for the same reasons. I think that
Ooh,
uh,
putting it in God.
yeah, I think that Kristen Ritter
Ooh.
does a fantastic job as a character. I think building off of the world of Daredevil, right? Because in this show, you also get the introduction of Luke Cage. I think that they had a very strong supporting cast, similar to Daredevil. All these Netflix shows, the supporting cast is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the mystery, the PI, the investigation, right? It was a compelling story. I like to watch bad people doing bad things.
Of course.
and this sort of begrudged hero who really has repeatedly said she's not a hero. I think she's just a very well written character, and uh, yeah, and the intro, god tier just for the intro.
Oh, yes. It was my ringtone for a long
So,
time.
so that is my stance on that.
100%. 100%, buddy. All right. Moving along. The next release in 2016 was Daredevil Season 2. Where am I going to put Daredevil Season 2? As a lot of you know, the Punisher is my all-time favorite comic book character. I love him and his introduction in this. This is right when Nick and I first became friends. I think we had been friends for about a year when Daredevil Season 2 aired, and I specifically remember getting a text from him when the trailer dropped saying, "Hey, are you all right after that trailer?" And I said, "After what trailer?" And you just said, "Daredevil, it's out." And we had known, because we'd followed the news, that like Punisher was going to be in it. So at that time, though, we didn't know how much he was in it. And the trailer made it appear like, oh, he's in the show. Like, he's in it. And with that, though, I'm going to put Daredevil Season 2 in the fuck yeah tier. So, Daredevil Season 2, when it's high, it's fucking high. Everything with the Punisher in the first 4 episodes is perfection. Episode 4 of the show is one of my favorite episodes of Daredevil, Season 2, Episode 4. It's an amazing episode with the monologue in the graveyard with Frank at the end. In Episode 3, the previous episode, you get the dueling philosophies of Matt and Frank, where they talk about the differences in what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve for the city. It's exceptional. I would even go as far as to say, in the second half of the show, everything with Elektra was also really compelling and also really interesting. You had this romance or this other part of this person that just brings out the worst in you, but you secretly loved doing it. And that's kind of the whole dichotomy of Matt's character. He's a Catholic who's supposed to live one way, but his desires and everything he loves is on this side. And he's always in that battle of what he wants to do and what he feels like he's supposed to do. And I think that with the Elektra storyline handled that really well. I really liked Elodie Young as Elektra. I thought she did great. However, I think putting both of these stories in the same season was a huge mistake. And I think even though they do come together at the end, they took the Elektra storyline and turned it more into setup for the Defenders rather than just having it be on its own. The Punisher storyline could have sustained a whole season, and you can tell that they put it to the side so that they could do the Elektra storyline. And you could have had the Elektra storyline build if they put breadcrumbs in the Punisher season and paid it off in a third season with Elektra. Like, it could have been done so much better. Individually, they were great. Together, it was a bit messy. Therefore, it's not God tier, but it's still a solid fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, Daredevil Season 2 is where I'm putting it. Nicholas?
Yeah.
Going over to you now. Where is Daredevil Season 2 going for you?
I'm going to put Daredevil Season 2 in the good column.
Okay.
I agree with a lot of what you said, right? I think the Punisher stuff to me was very compelling, and I did enjoy the Elektra stuff, but to me it was like every time one of the storylines started to get really interesting and I was more invested in it, they would pull away to the other storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a result of it trying to be also Defenders setup, but I think had we gotten a full season of Punisher and had we gotten a full season of Elektra, I think those would have been much stronger seasons on their own. And they do a good job. Like, it never felt like too, like, what are we doing? The way it's connected and everything. But you do get that full sense of like, oh, we're trying to do a bunch of setup here. And I still enjoy it. I think the Punisher stuff's great. I really enjoyed Elodie Young as Elektra. But to me, I just can't get past good.
And listen, that's fair. That's completely fair. I understand. Now we're moving on to the next release, which was also in 2016. And that is Luke Cage Season 1. Mike Colter, of course, playing the amazing Luke Cage. Where am I going to rank him in my tier list? I'm going to put Luke Cage Season 1, hold for show, for dramatic effect. I'm putting it in fuck yeah. I love Luke Cage. He is an amazing character, first of all. Mike Colter plays him perfectly. The casting on these shows, for the most part, was exceptional, and I think Luke Cage is no exception. I I love the story of the show, how he's trying to save Harlem in his way while also maintaining to the morals of how he feels. The tragic backstory with his wife and him in prison, just the overall story of Luke Cage is really great. I thought the writing on the show was really exceptional. It still felt like part of the MCU, part of the Netflix bubble, but also its own thing. It had its own tone and established itself really well. And on top of that, the performance of Mahershala Ali as Cottonmouth in the first 8 episodes was incredible, and he was such a compelling villain. And the decision, big spoiler alert for Luke Cage if you haven't seen it, but the decision to kill him halfway through the show, while it was very surprising and it had incredible shock value, you felt his absence in the second half. So literally, I'm putting Luke Cage in the God tier until the second half of the season kicks in. And it's not that the second half of the season's bad. Like, I thought that Diamondback was very fun to see. Yes, tonally it shifted and got a lot more comic booky than it was Harlem. But am I going to sit here and say I didn't smile when Luke Cage was fighting Diamondback in that ridiculous outfit? Of course, I was ear to ear, baby. I loved it. But it just simply wasn't as compelling without that character there. And it felt like the story, while it worked and accounted for that death, the charisma and the pace was just off. And don't get me wrong, Alfred Woodard as Mariah, I think Mariah did a great job, especially in season 2. But when you just had, it'd almost be like, imagine if Wilson Fisk just disappeared halfway through Daredevil season 1. It'd be like, you would feel that absence hard, and you almost feel it in season 2 a little bit. But, you know, it's just one of those things where it was in the God tier until it wasn't. But fuck yeah is nothing to sneeze at. Love fuck yeah. That's why I called it fuck yeah. That's why I called the tier that. But that's where...
And to get us demonetized.
Absolutely. No money on this. There's no fucking money anyway. But that's where we're at. Luke Cage season 1 goes into the fuck yeah tier for me. Nicholas, how about for you?
I'm also going to put it in the fuck yeah tier.
All right, dude.
And I'll tell you why, right? Because I think he was a great character in Jessica Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And I found
right.
what he was able to do with a small amount of time in Jessica. Well, he's in a good chunk of it, but still, you know, and to be able to take that and transfer that to a show, you know, and as these shows come out and get announced, you're like, all right, like, yeah, can Luke Cage do a whole show? You know, and I thought the same thing with Jessica Jones, and they proved me wrong, you know. So I was amped to see this Luke Cage show, and I was happier that it delivered, you know, based on my expectations for it. And I thought that Mahershala Ali did a great job as Cottonmouth. Same thing, Alfred Woodard. The shift worked for me because I found Mariah to be such a compelling character.
Mm-hmm.
But I did feel the absence. But I wasn't necessarily upset by it. And then I do love my comic booky fun stuff. So seeing the whole Diamondback fight. I mean, I'm a big Luke Cage fan. I have the first appearance of Cottonmouth in my comic collection. So, you know, I was always amped for it. And Mike Coulter's just one of the most beautiful human beings. So
this
that
is
gets
fair.
a big fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, indeed. Fuck yeah, indeed. All right. Now we got the next release, which was in early 2017. And that was Iron Fist Season 1. Iron Fist Season 1 is going to go into the bad column for me. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Dalton, is the show really that bad? And the answer is yes. It's fucking horrible. like the first season of Iron Fist is fucking horrible. Like, the writing is so poor. I rarely call out, like, you know, people in the industry, creators, for bad work. Scott Buck should never work again. Like everything he touches is not good. This is the same guy who also brought you Inhumans. Fucking also one of the worst TV shows I've ever seen in my entire life. And I watched every episode, so I can say that. And like, Iron Fist belongs in the same conversation as Inhumans and as Secret Invasion. It belongs in that conversation of one of the worst things that Marvel's ever put its name on. It's horrible. The only compelling things about the show are just the cool backstory things about the Iron Fist character, like Kunlun, like the dragon he has to fight in order to get his powers, how the whole powers work in general. That's the only really compelling thing you got going for it. And I was not convinced of Finn Jones in this season. We'll see if I got convinced of him later. But in this season, I was like, wow, they really dropped the ball on the writing, the casting, the everything. And then you tell yourself, if we're going to have this kung fu action show, and it's going to be, in this world where we have Daredevil with some of the best fight scenes ever put on television, especially at the time, like, what are we going to do from that? How's it going to work? We at least have to have good action, good for kung fu, right? Wrong. The kung fu was horrible. The action scenes were terrible. Let me get Nicholas back in here. There you go, buddy. I was just going on to explain that even the action in the kung fu show was terrible. Like there was nothing. There's an infamous fight scene that takes place in like a closet or like a storage unit, kind of, where it cuts like over 60 times in like a minute. Like, it's crazy. Like it's horrible. It's just awful. They only made it so that they could get Defenders out on time because they were contractually obliged to. It's terrible. So yes, Iron Fist Season 1 goes in the bad tier for me. Buddy, for you, where's Iron Fist Season 1 going?
God, I'm kidding. Bad. For all the reasons you just said, how do you do the Kung Fu movie? Apologies, the Kung Fu TV show with the bad Kung Fu. I think to me the strong, yes, Danny Rand has a very interesting backstory. I think Colleen Wing is the star and the standout of the show, personally. And I did sort of like the villain of Harold toward the sort of back end of it when they started kind of delving more into it. But just on the whole, or was he season 2?
No, I think Ward was more in season 2, but Harold was season 1.
Oh, we'll get to Ward. No, I think it was just
he might have come back in season 2, but I can't remember.
It was just a misfire all around, and it was disappointing to see because, as you've seen from our list, they had such a strong run of it, But yeah, bad for me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And guys, that now brings us to the Defenders. Where are we going to put the big crossover event that also came out in 2017? Nicholas, I am putting the Defenders in the good tier. Now, you might think this was a sure fuck yeah thing for me, especially. And look, I like the Defenders more than I think most people give it credit for, because a lot of people like to shit on it. It's really fun. It has an amazing court scene with Matt Murdock. It has several other great character scenes. I like Iron Fist in this a whole lot more than I liked him in his own show, even though he still kind of sucks. He's way better than he was in his own show. However, I think establishing each series as this very grounded, adult, darker corner of the MCU, and then the crossover event being more fun, more lighthearted. While it did not work entirely, it was a very much a, whoa, I feel like this isn't what we were leading up to. This isn't what we were establishing. And you do feel that, especially when you watch them in succession. The Defenders works a lot more when you just pop it on and when you haven't watched any of them in a while. But when you've watched them and then you hop into the Defenders, you're like, oh, this feels tonally off, especially as it goes. Because in the beginning, which, by the way, I've said many times before, S.J. Clarkson is a good director, and don't let Madam Web fool you. Because, her direction in the beginning of Defenders was really well done. The way they used color palettes, the way that they kind of were slowly bringing the puzzle pieces together were really interesting. But when they got together, towards the end, it got less interesting, which shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case. Now, you did get the inevitable team up between Power Man, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, which I loved seeing. We see more of, and I hope they come back in the Heroes for Hire show, please God. But, it wasn't... It's good. It's not bad. They fight to the Wu-Tang Clan and to run the jewels. You gotta give it something. However, it was not what it felt like the promise was going to be. And as much as I love Elektra as a villain, killing off Sigourney Weaver felt like a waste. It felt like a big waste of Sigourney Weaver. I think they could have established that better. Now, something that I do want to give the show big credit for, because again, I'm still saying it's good. Let's relax here. But the score from John Pisano, who also did the score for Daredevil, the Defenders score fucking slaps. Not just the opening intro, but there's music throughout the show that's exceptional, especially when the episode that focuses on Elektra after she's been revived. That music is fucking great. And it's exceptional in that regard. So, lots to like about Defenders, but I don't feel like it fully delivered the promise that it was giving. Therefore, it's in the good tier for me personally. Nicholas, throwing it over to you. Where are we putting the Defenders?
I am going to put the Defenders in the meh category.
Oh, okay. Not where I thought this was gonna go. Give it to me.
I think that, like you were saying, right, having the sort of grounded, gritty realism, and then spreading that into the fun sort of campiness of it, while it worked at times, right? Like, I do love set pieces. I love the underground fight. I love the Luke Cage Iron Fist team up. I love the whole scene, the whole episode where they're in the Chinese restaurant and Daredevil's kind of being quippy and stuff and learning all that. And to me, I think the strongest element of the show, though, is Daredevil's and Jessica Jones's dynamic. I thought that was a very strong dynamic. And I think my biggest thing is, right, Iron Fist is so essential to this show. And the show Iron Fist was so bad. And the Hand kind of muddied up the waters of Daredevil season 2. And then there was really nothing with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. So it felt like sort of this half-assed put together culmination event that, while there's great sequences and even a few great episodes, I think on the whole, it just left me sort of underwhelmed outside of it was cool to see them all together. But I think Luke Cage and Iron Fist work really strongly. I think Jessica Jones and Daredevil work very strongly. But I felt like the reasoning and the looping for them all coming in together felt very forced, especially all of these sort of the secondary characters, right? They're friends and everything, and throwing them up into there. But it's like, okay, well, how are you like tied to Daredevil? And we're just not going to address that you're in this room at all, Foggy and Karen. I think the idea is to give them that storylines, but some of the writing was a little like, oh, you've never watched these other shows, so we're gonna make it like, what's Jessica Jones's friend, the addict? He's like,
Malcolm.
I'm a heroin addict. You get good at finding where drugs are, and you're like, now I know who this character is.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
And then every time Iron Fist comes on screen, he has to mention that he's the immortal Iron. Danny Rand, the immortal Iron Fist,
defender of Kunlun.
Defender of Kunlun. So, to me, I just kind of left it. Sigourney Weaver wasted. I think it was just that the Hand they tried to develop it, but it kind of felt underdeveloped to me, which then felt underwhelming as the villains of the culmination event.
I thought the Hand was more compelling in Daredevil than they were in the Defenders.
I thought that as well for Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Like, Daredevil was the best use of the Hand, but it muddied the waters of the Great Punisher storyline. And no Punisher in the Defenders. How dare they?
Yes. Huge oversight.
So that's okay.
Yes, huge oversight on their part, but it also sucks because they had to have had a timeline they had to get it out by, because the Punisher show was a spin-off of Daredevil because it wasn't part of the original deal. So by the time they're shooting Defenders, they're like, fuck, everyone's loving Punisher. It's a whole thing. But moving on, and before I get into the next release, let's kind of go over where we're at so far. On my side, in the God tier, you have Daredevil Season 1 and Jessica Jones Season 1. In the Fuck Yeah tier, you have Daredevil Season 2 and Luke Cage Season 1. In the Good tier, you have The Defenders. In the Mad tier, you have nothing so far. And in the Bad tier, you have Iron Fist Season 1. For you, Nicholas. In the God tier, you have Jessica Jones Season 1. In the Fuck Yeah tier, you have Daredevil Season 1 and Luke Cage Season 1. In the Good tier, you have Daredevil Season 2. In the Meh tier, you have The Defenders. And in the Bad tier, you have Iron Fist Season 1. Going back here. These ads love popping up. Going back here to mine, the next release is The Punisher Season 1, which came out in November of 2017. And ladies and gentlemen, we are putting The Punisher Season 1 at... which one? Are we going God? We going Fuck Yeah? Which one is it? We're going to go in the Fuck Yeah tier. So, the only reason I'm not putting this in the God tier, because this is my favorite character of all time, and I think that's part of it, is because this is my favorite character of all time, I have this, like, you better knock this out of the fucking park, and for the most part, holy shit, they do. Like, I did not think they would ever make a Punisher series about what it's like to be a war veteran, to come home and realize you may have fought for the wrong side or fought for nothing. That's horrifying to think about. And the Punisher show deals with it exceptionally well. I think Jon Bernthal obviously embodies the character greatly. I love the side character, like Curtis. I love the Curtis character a lot. I love Agent Madani a lot. The season 1 also had Micro with Evan Ross Baccarat, and I thought that was a great character, a very interesting twist in how he's used in the comic books. And I also really love the action for the most part, especially towards the end. The Punisher is one of those shows where each episode builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, so you kind of get eventually to the action you want to see, though it takes a while to get there. I think one of my biggest issues with this season is some of the storylines are just not as compelling as the other ones. Like, everything with Billy Russo and Ben Barnes and Frank was kind of interesting, but the FBI agents, there's a lot of forced banter there that, like, if it was really well written, could have been like Foggy and Matt in terms of like how these characters bicker, but it was really kind of surface level and flat. And like some of it worked, some of it didn't. And it's like, this could have been better, this could have been worse. I thought everything with Curtis and the support group for the veterans. I'm still hoping one day, now that these are officially MCU canon, that we'll see Curtis and Sam Wilson in like a support group together. I think that would be so fucking cool to see. Marvel, please do it. And I also think that the highlight of this season for me personally, other than the last 2 episodes, the last 3 episodes, which were pretty phenomenal, were episodes 9 and 10, the culmination of the kind of domestic terrorist storyline that they were building up throughout the season. I thought that was heartbreaking. The way it involved Karen and Brett Mahoney, the way it used the universe was really interesting. And I thought that it was really, really excellent TV. Something else I didn't like, though, is they pretty much do Punisher's origin on Daredevil Season 2. And they do it really well. But you can tell the creators and the writers, when they're doing Punisher, they're like, we want to make the story of like the Punisher going after the people who killed his family. And he kind of already did that. So they just made it that more people were responsible for the death of his family. It's like you just go after more.
There's more.
Right. And it complicated the situation a little bit more. Because like in Daredevil Season 2, it set up that like it was a sting that went wrong. So the cops tried to cover it up. And that's really interesting. And they do imply at the end of that season that like, you know, the blacksmith knew that Frank was going to be there and that it was more of a hit. Interesting idea. They kind of took it and ran with it really deep in the Punisher show, and I think the story is almost more compelling if it was a sting that tried to get covered up rather than a hit. Making it both is a bit complex, and for the most part it works. Like, you follow what's going on, but it's like, okay, so Frank, when he was in the war, which had an amazing war scene, by the way, didn't like what he was doing, figured out he was doing it for the wrong side, so he quit. As retaliation for him quitting, they're going to kill him and his family. But no, they also know that it's a setup from the cops to catch the blacksmith, and then when they realized that they were going to try to cover up the situation, instead of killing Frank, they just, we're done. It's a bit complex. It's like, I don't think it needed to be that complex.
There were many steps.
Yes, but still great. Love the Punisher. It goes into fuck yeah for me. As always, Nicholas, where does the Punisher Season 1 go for you?
It goes in the fuck yeah for me as well, because fuck yeah, it's the Punisher, and he's gonna kill people.
Yes, he will.
I really like the whole agent storyline. The domestic terrorist storyline I thought was, to me, the most compelling part of the show. Mm-hmm. But it's also just the performance that Jon Bernthal gives as Frank Castle is so layered, and it's such an easy character to sort of default into, just like hellish, violent brute, and he adds such a complexity to the performance that I think it's truly a phenomenal casting. Evan Moss Baccarat, who's going to be our new thing, he's Micro, and he's fantastic. Their dialogue, their banter, and their dynamic and relationship I thought was great, and sort of how they play off of each other, and kind of this really kind of enemies at the end of the day. You know, they're kind of really like begrudgingly friends. But no, I just thought it was great, and I'm actively looking forward to the Punisher special presentation that has been announced. Off of the hype of Daredevil Born Again. So I am looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. Me too. Moving back on, the next release saw the release of Jessica Jones Season 2, which I believe was in 2018. I have Jessica Jones Season 1 in the God tier, as it being that good. Jessica Jones Season 2 is going into the meh tier for me. This is the biggest fall from grace in the Netflix world. Jessica Jones Season 2, it was disappointing on so many levels. One, in that you do feel the absence of the Purple Man until he's there for a little bit there. It tries to immediately go a little bit more comic booky than it did in the first episode, and it just didn't quite work from there. The tone felt off. The storylines they were going into, just you didn't really care about with Jessica and Trisha's mom. Like, it was just like, okay, I guess we're doing this. The only part of Season 2 that really worked for me is there are a couple episodes that go into Jessica's backstory, where you learn more about her when she was going to be Jewel, when she had this different personality that is hinted at in Jessica Jones Season 1. But in Season 2, you get to see that. You get to see this boyfriend that she had, that she actually really cared about, and what happened with that relationship. And I thought that was insanely compelling. I could have watched a whole season that was a flashback, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But everything going on in the modern day just felt like a huge step down, because it was. It just wasn't the top tier stuff that we had gotten in that previous season. And it's not bad. It's not horrible. Like, it's not unwatchable. It's not fucking Iron Fist. But it's just kind of meh. And maybe it's more meh than good because of just how good Season 1 was. But that's just where I felt about it, going for Jessica Jones Season 2. So, Nick, for yourself, where is Jessica Jones Season 2 going for you?
I'm also going to put it in the meh tier. I think I do have a strong bias on how much I love Season 1. So I think, unfortunately, and then having Defenders in between, where Jessica Jones is a great character in it, and Jessica Jones still is a great character, don't get me wrong here, but I think that the overall story could have been stronger, and the direction of the season. As I said before, I think that the side characters of these shows are always sort of the highlight for me, and to me, I think that that's when we start to see, like, I don't need the whole Trish Walker storyline that they go down, which eventually picks up in Season 3 more. It was just more like, okay, now we're putting too much emphasis on the supporting cast.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the hero's storyline. I don't need this, we do get a lot of time with Karen and Foggy, and Karen has some storylines, but they always felt integral to the main story that was occurring. Mm-hmm. And with Jessica Jones Season 2, it starts to feel like now we're just following them as like a co-lead. And to me, that sort of takes away from it. And there's some good stuff in there, but overall just left me underwhelmed and meh.
Yeah, no, and again, I agree in pretty much every single level. So, the next release saw the release of Luke Cage Season 2, also in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Where are we going to put Luke Cage Season 2? I am putting Luke Cage Season 2 in the good tier, right behind Defenders. Now, it is a step down from Season 1, for sure, but there's still a lot to like in this season. I think that the villain being a very physical threat to Luke Cage was incredibly interesting, and it threw a dynamic for Luke Cage. I think Alfred Woodard stepping up as Mariah, like, she had to fill in a hole that was left by Cottonmouth, and she filled it spectacularly. I thought her in Season 2 was exceptional and very scary in the type of role that she was playing, the type of actions that she was doing, almost like a politician in a way. It felt very scary. And I also love where the season ended with Luke Cage having to make a decision against his own code, but it's a decision that he had to make. And it's a shame that that was the series finale, because that story could have gone into so many interesting places. Mm-hmm. And they also straight up light a dude on fire in one scene, and it's horrifying. Like, I vividly remember them lighting a dude on fire and being like, Jesus Christ, when I saw it. However, it just didn't have that magic that Season 1 had, especially in the first half of it. It just felt like it fell off a little bit, but, it still stayed good. It still had strong stuff, but it just kind of felt like it was trudging along at one point instead of being a full compelling story. And I didn't mention this in season 1, but Shades, amazing character, bring him back. But yeah, I just thought that season 2, while it was good, it just didn't quite hit season 1, so it stays down in the good tier for me. Nicholas, for yourself, where is Luke Cage season 2 going in your tier list?
That is also going to be on the good tier for me. We're kind of in a similar mindset here. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the character Bushmaster being this sort of physical threat to Luke Cage was very interesting. And when you have this indestructible man, having a threat that can make him can inflict that damage, I think is just compelling. It was a different type of fighting style because Luke Cage, similar to Jessica Jones, he punch and throw and kick hard. And I think having this more dynamic dexterity driven fighting style was interesting to see how those interact. I think that the Mariah character really is shining and carrying a lot of this season, especially and successfully filling that void with what Mahershala Ali left. Is Shades is a bigger role in season 2, right? Because he kind
Yeah.
of becomes more Mariah's, again, great character. Guy from, was he Breaking Bad? Or he was on something, I remember. Sons of Anarchy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great character, and didn't really overstep. He was really that right hand man to Mariah that I thought worked out really well. But yeah, it's good. I love the way it ends, and I wish we did have more of that storyline. There was a bit of a tease, I think, in Daredevil, right? It was a billboard in the trailer when Fisk
Oh,
is talking
and
to
Born
him.
Again.
Yeah, in Daredevil Born Again, they have a poster when in the trailer. I think the episode was in
Yeah,
an early
it's in the
episode as
episode
well.
as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For the Harlem Club, so that was cool to
Harlem's
see that
Paradise.
that maybe Luke Cage is still out there. But the storyline of him having to make that decision that he doesn't want to, but knowing it's what's best for his community, it was just great. It was a very compelling story to watch, and I wish we had more.
No, same, absolutely. Um, moving on, to the next one, baby. We
Oh
got
boy.
Iron Fist season 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Iron Fist season 2. The first one, the first season is absolute dog shit. It's terrible. Season 2. This is a tough one for me, Nicholas. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I think if a tier existed between meh and good, that's where Iron Fist season 2 would go. However, I feel like being cool, we're putting Iron Fist season 2 in the good tier.
Whoa.
And the reason we're doing it is because the jump in quality from season 1 to season 2 is overnight. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, it's a company that actually said, hey, we fucked that up and we're going to fix it as much as we can. And you're like, yeah, okay, I've heard this song and dance before, right? They did. Now, granted, is it great? No. Again, if there was a tier below good and between meh, that's where it would go. Maybe it truly belongs in meh. However, you gotta give it the credit for the improving. I think that's what put it over the edge into the good for me. Like, in the same way that maybe Jessica Jones season 2 belongs in good, but it's meh because of the fall of grace. Maybe this is meh, but I'm putting it in good because of the jump. Like, it fulfilled a promise that it made. And that we're cutting out the fat. They made it 10 episodes. We are improving the story. It was actually compelling. And, oh my God, the guy who played the Master on Doctor Who and Jodie Whittaker's run, he is the villain. And he is so good on the show. Like, he's legitimately fantastic in the show. And the Colleen Wing, again, standout. You actually like Finn Jones now as Iron Fist. You actually like him in Luke Cage. Him and Luke Cage is the best he's ever been. And when he was in Luke Cage season 2. But in this show, you actually start to being like, oh my God, I see the character they were trying to do now, and it makes more sense. But on top of all that, the story, while still weak, was infinitely more compelling than the shit story of season 1. the fight scenes are fucking good. And it's like, finally, like, this is the bare minimum that I needed, was to just have really fucking good fight scenes. And they do. From the first episode, the fights are banger in this show. And it's like, finally, Jesus Christ. You still never get the fucking green outfit, which is horse shit, but you do get the white one. Whatever. Also, Alice Eve plays Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary is one of my favorite comic book characters, so that was nice to see. Put it over the edge for me. So, fuck it. Iron Fist Season 2 goes in the good tier. The fucking bottom of the good tier, but the good tier. So that's where we're at. That's my thinking.
I'm about to get controversial here, apparently.
All right, Nick. Iron Fist Season 2.
I'm still going bad.
Oh, all right.
I think, yes, there is a noticeable jump in the quality difference. But to me, I just found the character uninteresting. I think that Ben Jones was a weak casting, and they trudged through with it. You know, I think Iron Fist, outside of Colleen Wing, has had some of the worst supporting cast players in it. The guy from Doctor Who was fantastic in his a little bit of, what was he in, a few episodes, one episode?
No, he's in a lot of it. He's like the villain of the season.
He was in one. I'm thinking of someone else then.
He was in a little bit of season 1.
That may be what I'm thinking of. Mm-hmm. I thought he was really the standout of the season as a whole. But, you know, just the character, I find Danny Rand to be that sort of annoying rich guy. It just never worked for me. And I think because of that, everyone around him, I'm like, why are you doing it? Why are you helping this guy? But the quality of the fights were better. Listen, you know, and to me, you know, I think we're not talking about the golden guns of it all. I think that's important to note, of ending with the Iron Fist golden guns.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, again, maybe a season 3 would have taken it in a more interesting direction, but obviously it didn't get to that, and I just can't really give it that many good graces.
Listen, fine. Be that way if you will. I understand. I understand completely. But I was genuinely blown away by the improvement, to where, like, I was like, oh, wow, they said what they were going to do, and they, like, improved the show. Now, it did not get it nearly on the level as, like, the seasons of Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones and Punisher. Like, not even close. But it was like, oh, this is not dog shit. Like, it was like, oh, wow, like, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. And, like, that's kind of where it was at. Before we move on, neither of us, when we talked about Luke Cage, mentioned Misty Knight, who was a fucking amazing side character. And when you were talking about side characters, I just wanted to bring her up because she's great.
Mm-hmm. She is great.
Now, after Iron Fist Season 2, we had Daredevil Season 3 releasing in 2018. I infamously watched this entire season in one day when it aired. And let's not waste any fucking time, dude. This is God tier. Are you kidding me? This is easily God tier. Daredevil Season 3 is fucking incredible. Each episode builds and gets better and better and better. The story is infinitely compelling. The writing is superb. Ray Nadeem, one of the best original characters in a Marvel thing. We love you, Ray Nadeem.
Justice for Ray.
And the fact that they had lost their original stunt coordinator for this season, but the stunts are still pretty fantastic. Big fan of. Introduction of Bullseye and the use of Bullseye. Amazing. It remained artistic in how it was told. Like the Bullseye backstory being Fisk kind of creating a play for himself was so interesting. The final episode when Matt fucking tells Kingpin, I beat you. Like I still get chills when he does that whole speech. It's so fucking good. Love Daredevil Season 3. The only thing I don't like about the season, there's one thing. It looks so much worse than Season 1 and Season 2. The cinematography is just not it. And they even do this thing with the action scenes that the first season of Punisher did sometimes. It was inconsistent, which was odd. But they do this thing where it looks like the frame rate is much higher, but they didn't account for it in how it should be lit. So it almost looks like a shutter speed issue, but it has to be a frame. Like it almost looks like it's shot at what could easily be 120 frames per second. Like it looks odd, especially in the fight scenes. And it's just like, this was such an odd choice. But the thing is, they didn't do it all the time. Like they didn't do it in the prison fight. The prison fight looks normal. Most of the other fights are shot this weird way. And I'm just like, why? But other than that, God tier shit. Love Daredevil Season 3. It's unbelievable. Nick, I'm going to throw it over to you. Same. Okay. Yeah, I figured.
Gotta
I
go quick
figured.
with it. No, I think that this is Daredevil firing on all cylinders, right? It is the meat, the everything of Fisk versus Daredevil. Ray Nadeem, again, being one of the best original characters, but using him as the way for us to see the inner workings of how deep Fisk's roots run,
Hmm.
and to do it with a character who you immediately have empathy and sympathy for instead of it being like a villain. We see a little bit of it with Dex, but Dex is a lot more like fucked up in the head, So I think seeing it from the perspective of a guy who's just trying to work and support his family and being brought into that corruption, I thought made for a great, compelling storyline. I love that Bullseye can just do that.
Yes.
Sometimes you can just do things, like his accuracy. I just thought that was funny. It's comic booky, but they treated it with the realism. I think not drawing as much attention to it helped sell it more. And just the way everything goes, the Kingpin's manipulation of it all, the Vanessa of it all, getting back her.
Hmm.
I think it's just an excellent season of television, and I think it's just the show firing on all cylinders and delivering what people love about Daredevil.
100%.
And the reveal, oh my
100%.
god, the reveal with his mom, amazing.
Yes. Very well done. Very well done. All right, we got two more, Nicholas.
Oh boy.
Next up is Punisher Season 2. You got to give it to him for consistency because Punisher Season 2 is also going in the fuck yeah tier. Punisher is an overall fuck yeah for me. So it's very different from Season 1, but in interesting ways. Like, Season 1 is this very grounded, realistic story of like veterans and coming back home and telling the story of Punisher. This one is kind of like the Mandalorian story before the Mandalorian, where you have this reluctant hero, you have this person who's supposed to start a new life, who because he made a deal with Agent Madani and the CIA and the FBI to kind of stay out of things, but he sees this kid that just needs his help, and he can't help but be like, "Fucking A, I'll fucking do this." And I think the action in season 2 was actually far improved from season 1. I think the action in season 2 is phenomenal, and right from the get go in the first fight in the Roadhouse style bar fight is excellent. And I think the overall story is slightly weaker. However, I think this is shot a lot better than season 1 is shot. Season 1 almost feels like it's shot for a certain aspect ratio, and then Netflix told them, no, you're going 16:9, so everything looks like it just has too much space. And maybe it was on purpose. But when you watch it, you're just like, I feel like that was supposed to be cropped at the top a little bit. And it just seems odd, but season 2 is shot very much more in your face. It knows when to take its time. It also has a very compelling villain, I thought, in the priest that's following Frank trying to get the kid. I really was interested in his story and who he was working for. Obviously, it was a fun commentary on what was going on with like Christian nationalism at the time, and it's still continuing now. And, putting Punisher in that situation, we got more Curtis. Love Curtis. Bring him back and everything. The only real disappointing thing, other than the story just being slightly weaker, about Punisher Season 2 was the fact that Jigsaw still looked hot. like Ben Barnes still looked fuckable as Jigsaw. And in Season 1, Punisher is like scraping his fucking face across glass, telling him like, when you look in the mirror, you're going to remember who fucking did this. And it's like, he looked fine. Like, that's miracle surgery shit. Like, I would have kissed my doctor on the mouth if I ended up looking like that after what I just went through. And so that was just a bit disappointing. And it's only disappointing because characters were acting like it looked worse than it did. If they honestly just went like, oh, you don't look that bad, I would have been more fine with it. But like, characters are looking at him like, oh, and it's like, he still looks hot. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But, other than that, I mean, it was really well done. And the storyline with Billy Russo of him having the amnesia and Frank almost having to decide, like, well, if he doesn't remember all the horrible shit he's done and he can be a new person, am I doing the wrong thing and, like, trying to track him down still? And, he doesn't really reference Daredevil in that way, but you can think the character's kind of thinking of that conversation with Daredevil being like, man, like, maybe I don't have to kill this guy. And then the heartbreaking scene when Billy is laying there wounded telling Frank, like, hey, man, all I remember is that you were my friend we can get through this. Like, everything's gonna be fine if Punisher just fucking puts a round in him. Like, it's so, like, oh, God.
Mhm.
But, so Punisher Season 2 still goes in fuck yeah. That's what I'm getting at. I went a little bit long there. But, Nicholas.
Where did I have Punisher season 1? Fuck yeah,
You,
as well.
you have Punisher Season 1 in fuck yeah.
I'm also gonna put Punisher season 2 in fuck yeah.
Consistency, baby.
There's just something about that begrudging, angry hero and the child that they need to protect. It's what made Logan such a great movie. It's what made Mando season 1 so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that again, going back to really all the reasons that I had the first season, I think that John Bernthal gives a phenomenal performance as the character. I like where we were finding it, how trouble just always seems to find him. And I thought that Georgia Wiggum does an excellent job as the child he's protecting, daughter of Shea Wiggum,
Yes.
who is an underrated actor.
Who we talked about.
On that, we have an episode of the show recently where we talked about underrated actors. So check that out if you want to hear our thoughts on Shea Wiggum. But I think that their dynamic worked really well, and I agree with you about Jigsaw. I think that I understand what they were going for with the character and how he was in season 1, and that the looks are everything in that, and even just the tiniest flaw is going to feel major to him. This sort of body dysmorphia storyline that they were doing and everything, and it's sort of I see where they're going for. I understand it, but it just didn't work to the level that I think it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have been far more interesting to have that fucked up, truly fucked up face like we see in the old Punisher movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a great character, and his sort of dynamic with John Bernthal was also great. But yeah, it's Punisher, so fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Absolutely. And briefly, one great moment that I forgot about until I rewatched it was throughout the season, he's teaching Georgia Widgum's character like how to disarm somebody. And he's like, but the most important part is if you're going to disarm somebody, you have to be ready to shoot them. Like, if you take their gun and you're not ready to use it, they'll just take it back and shoot you. And later in the season, it pays off where she disarms somebody and then she shoots him in the chest. And the dude is like slowly, agonally dying, like begging for his life, saying he doesn't want to die. And she's obviously fucking mortified by what happened. And Frank comes in. And she's like, Frank, I killed him. Like, I did that. And then Frank just takes the gun and shoots the guy in the head and says, no, you didn't, sweetie. I killed him. And I'm like, whoo! Like, where's more of that? Like, I love that shit. Oh, awesome. Anyway, we have one more, and that is Jessica Jones Season 3. Nicholas, I'm putting Jessica Jones Season 3 in the good tier. It is better than Season 2. In a lot of ways. However, it doesn't quite get to fuck yeah, and it doesn't quite obviously get to the god tier that Jessica Jones Season 1 is in. I think just the idea of Jessica Jones v. a serial killer is so compelling. I thought it was an excellent idea, and for the most part, it works really well. I didn't really care for the Trish Walker Hellcat storyline as much as the show thought I cared about it, but it was still well done. It was still compelling. And again, better than the second season. It was an improvement. And that's really all I can say about it. Again, I was also sad that the series ended with how the final shot of it went, with her returning, deciding if she's going to leave, and then deciding I'm going to go back, especially after thinking about Kilgrave. I thought that was really cool. It was a nice touch. But again, better than season 2. Not nearly as good as season 1. It goes into the good tier for me. Nicholas, for yourself, where's Jessica Jones Season 3 going?
Where did I have Season 2?
You have Season 2 in meh.
Yeah, I'll go good on that one.
All right.
I think it's an improvement from Season 2. I think that the Trish stuff didn't really work for me on a whole, but I found the villain storyline and the arc of Jessica Jones to be the more stronger element, much more compelling than what we were getting in season 2, and again, I think I just really like the character of Jessica Jones. So that's my thoughts on that.
There you go. And before we move on to the box office, now the hard part comes, Nick, where we rank them within the tiers. So,
oh boy.
I'm going to make you go first because I'm in charge and I think this is funny. So,
all right. Great.
In your God tier, you have Jessica Jones Season 1 and Daredevil Season 3. Rank them.
Daredevil Season 3 and then Jessica Jones.
Okay. In your
Yeah.
fuck yeah tier, you have Daredevil Season 1, Luke Cage Season 1, Punisher Season 1, and Punisher Season 2. Go for it, buddy.
I'm fine with that.
All right. In your good tier.
I am good with that. I'll keep it easy for you.
Yeah. In your good tier, you have Daredevil Season 2, Luke Cage Season 2, and Jessica Jones Season 3.
Swap Jessica Jones and Luke Cage?
All right. You got Daredevil Season
I
2,
think, and then
Jessica Jones, Luke Cage.
Daredevil Season 2 in the top. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In
Yep, okay.
Meh, you have Defenders and Jessica Jones Season 2.
Keep them.
All right. And in Bad, you have Iron Fist Season 1 and Iron Fist Season 2. You want to put 2 over 1?
Swap them.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick's definitive list is the ranking is, I say definitive just to mess with you. Daredevil Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 1, Daredevil Season 1, Luke Cage Season 1, Punisher Season 1, Punisher Season 2, Daredevil Season 2, Jessica Jones Season 3, Luke Cage Season 2, The Defenders, Jessica Jones Season 2, Iron Fist Season 2, Iron Fist Season 1.
We did it.
Take a picture. Next up is going to be mine. This is hard as fuck, you guys. So here's what I'm going to say. All right, guys. Really quick. Ever since these shows have started airing 10 years ago, I flipped my answer on Daredevil Season 1 or Daredevil Season 3 being better. It happens every year. I change the answer, okay? So please understand this answer will change. As Nick will probably also tell you, his answers at some point will change. But for now, we're putting Daredevil Season 1, then Daredevil Season 3, then Jessica Jones Season 1. However, Season 3 could easily take it over. I just think Season 3 is dependent on watching a lot, and I think you can hop into Daredevil Season 1 and it's still fantastic. In the fuck yeah tier, I got Daredevil Season 2, Luke Cage Season 1, Punisher 2. I will put Punisher 1 over Luke Cage, and I'll leave it like that. So I'll go Daredevil, Punisher 1, Luke Cage, Punisher 2. In good, I have Defenders, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones 3. Or Jessica Jones 3. I'll put Jessica Jones 3 here. I like that. Should I put it over Luke Cage? You could flip Jessica Jones 3 and Luke Cage 2, but we'll leave it like this for now. And then obviously Meh and Bad are the way they are. So my ranking is Daredevil Season 1, Daredevil Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 1, Daredevil Season 2, Punisher Season 1, Luke Cage Season 1, Punisher Season 2, Defenders, Luke Cage Season 2, Jessica Jones Season 3, Iron Fist Season 2, Jessica Jones Season 2, and Iron Fist Season 1. There's mine. The internet's gonna murder me. That's fine. It's not the first time. Guys, what is your ranking of the Marvel Netflix shows? Let us know in the comments below as we move on to the box office.
The box office.
Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot. I do not have our old picks pulled up at all.
Oh, boy.
If you could do that as I distract the audience. So, guys, as he's pulling that up, I just want to let you know, Nick and I both have hard outs tonight, so this is going to be an accelerated, quick version of the box office, but we'll still get you all the information that you need to know. Just as soon as Mr. Iricchio gets everything pulled up, we will dive into this and
From
go
March
forward.
10th, that seems right. Okay. So Dalton, you had Novocaine coming in at number 1. Mickey 17 coming in number 2, Captain America Brave New World number 3, Black Bag number 4, and Last Breath number 5.
Okay.
I, on the flip, had Novocaine number 1, Mickey 17 number 2, Black Bag number 3, Captain America Brave New World number 4, and The Monkey number 5.
To no one's surprise, we were both wrong, but
Woo!
these results, really fun. You ready for this?
Hit me with it.
Novocaine came in first, making $8.8 million in its opening weekend. Black Bag came in second, making $7.6 million in its opening weekend. Those being the top two numbers. Bad news for the box office. Mickey 17 came in third, dropping 61% from week 1 to week 2, making $7.4 million. Captain America Brave New World came in fourth, making $5.6 million in its fifth week. And coming in fifth, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, making $3.1 million. And technically it's 14th week because it opened up early a little bit last year, but in its opening wide week. Now,
That's coming off the heels of Max just removing everything with the Looney Tunes from their platform.
oh yeah, which we'll fucking get to that soon. But Novocaine has made a total worldwide box office of $10 million so far, 10.6. It's not listed here, but I've read from a few sources that the budget was 18. So not quite where it needs to be, still under 1 times the budget, but we'll see how it goes from there. Black Bag has made $12 million worldwide on a budget of 60. That budget surprised the fuck out of me. I don't think this movie is going to make anywhere near that, but this movie does have exceptional word of mouth. So we'll see how it goes. I am going to try to see it this week,
as with all
before
things,
the Friday show.
Steven Soderbergh pushes on.
As he will. He'll come out with a $500,000 movie next week, and it'll make $10 million.
Yeah, perfectly balanced.
As all things should be. Mickey 17 now has $90 million worldwide on a budget of 118, so it's at 0.8 times that budget. This is going to end up being a money loser for the studio, but hopefully it can make as much money as it can because I like Bong Joon-ho and I want him to be successful. Captain America Brave New World now has $389 million. It's almost at that 400 mark. It's at 2.2 times that $180 million budget, if you want to believe it's 180. And The Day the Earth Blew Up is at $3.9 million, not even 4, on a budget of 15. Even with that modest budget, it's only at 0.3 times the budget. It's going to have a lot of work to do if it wants to make money for the studio there. We'll quickly touch on Paddington in Peru, which now has $183 million worldwide, so it's at 2.4. It's right on that profitability line, and it probably already is profitable considering how little it was marketed in the States. And let's see, we'll do one more here. The Monkey, $50 million worldwide on a budget of 11, 4.5, baby. Shmoney for Osgood Perkins and Neon. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. And Nicholas, what are your predictions for next week's box office?
Oh man, what comes out this week?
I believe it's Snow White.
Well, I'm gonna go Snow White number 1.
That is this week, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Snow White, and then I'm going to go Black Bag, overtaking Novocaine.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go Novocaine.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go Mickey 17. And I'm going to go... Ooh, do I want to go to Paddington? What was in the 5th spot this week?
The Day the Earth Blew Up.
And what was 6th?
6th was The Last Supper.
What was 7th?
Paddington in Peru.
I'm going to go Paddington in Peru, number 5.
Just keeps going down. That one.
So Snow White, Black Bag, Novocaine, Mickey 17, and Paddington in Peru.
Okay. Also opening this week is Alto Knights, Magazine Dreams, and Ash. I don't see any of them doing particularly well, to be honest with you. But here's my predictions. Snow White, number 1. I'll go Novocaine, number 2. Black Bag, number 3. I'll go Captain America, number 4. Mickey 17, number 5.
Ooh. I like it.
I'll be surprised if Alto Knights or Ash ends up
I would also be shocked.
But
you
yeah,
never
guys, there you have it. That is the Movie Nights Roundtable today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please comment your predictions for next week's box office, and if you're right, we'll shout you out on the show. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.